what you've established is a breeding ground for parasites and diseases. And when those diseases go through their life cycle, because you're working in a net environment, all of those pathogens are released into the environment where they can attack our wild salmon populations. So we've got not just sea lice, which has devastated the pink salmon this last year, the largest single salmon collapse on history in the world. Happened this past year, and as a result, all indications are pointing to sea lice that have been generated on the farms in the Broughton Archipelago. We have IHN, infectious hematopoietic necrosis or sockeye disease, affecting many, many farms in BC. Sockeye disease, obviously a disease that our wild populations are susceptible to. We've got the problem of how do you make a farm salmon appetizing? Because if you were to cut a farm salmon mid-production, it would look not unlike the color of this page, because they're not getting the wild feed. So we have, here's a representation of a salmo fan, and this is essentially like a paint swatch. And market analysis has shown that some markets prefer their salmon deeper red, some like it a little more orange. And right before the fish goes to market, you can buy pellets with these artificial dyes in it that are going to dye the flesh of your salmon an appropriate color for the market. So when you eat these fish, you're ingesting these artificial dyes, and these have been linked with retinal damage to the point where the EU, the European Union, has now scaled back the allowed use of this product by 66%. When you risk the wild salmon population, and we're not just talking about pinks here, we're talking about all wild salmon, you are putting in jeopardy the entire ecosystem, because salmon are what is known as a keystone species. They are a species around which the entire ecosystem functions. We are talking about a huge influx of energy into the terrestrial ecosystem. When that energy is all of a sudden removed, you've got dead bears, dying forests, collapse of the ecosystem. So it's not just salmon that we're talking about losing. We are talking about losing an entire coastal heritage.
Our organization does not oppose fish farms per se. We have people who work cutting fish farm fish, but we are concerned about what we see as a reckless disregard for wild stock and a reckless expansion of fish farms, and we do insist that whatever fish farms we have in BC, that they're properly regulated and safely managed. I want to address briefly the question of jobs and investment, because we've heard a lot about that. The BC government is saying that they want to expand fish farms because it's going to bring a lot of jobs and investment. Maybe so, but I don't think that that's the end of the story. Very little is being said about the cost. And we've already invested a tremendous amount of taxpayers' dollars. People in the fishing industry have already sacrificed a tremendous amount of lost income to make sure that wild habitat is looked after, to make sure that we have parks, recreational opportunities, foregone opportunities for logging, and dam development, and a lot of other things that have happened, fleet reduction, and so forth, that have happened to try and make sure that we have healthy and sustainable fisheries on wild salmon, pink salmon, sockeye, and other species as well. So we have to question really whether we as a society are prepared to risk all of that, and why we ought to risk all of that. And we certainly don't think that we should be risking all of that so that some Norwegian international conglomerate can come to the British Columbia coastline and develop a fish farm economy on Atlantics in the cheapest way possible, without regard to the cost of in jobs or anything else to people all up and down this coast. If an accidental spill or disease or lice or one of these other problems associated with this foreign species that's being imported into our coastline causes a collapse of wild salmon runs, then for every job created, in fact, there may be more jobs lost. And I don't think that that is something that has been properly addressed, and certainly it's something that the provincial government in its lifting of the moratorium on salmon farms has addressed at all. And it's something that I don't think has been covered in the media enough. Just what is at risk here is as much to do with this as what the potential benefits might be.
The decision of how this industry is going to operate on our coasts is not one of science. The science is in. We don't need more science. It's one that rests with the consumer. If you consume this product, you sanction the way it's produced. And I think the evidence shows very convincingly that the way we're producing salmon in BC on the farms today is one that risks not just our own salmon populations, but indeed our entire coastal ecosystems.